Alright, so initial thoughts on the Halo campaign trailer.
Um, I like it. Uh, I'm not one for these newer Halos. I haven't enjoyed 4 and 5 particularly. Um, but I'm excited to see where this goes. I am fully jumping on the golden age of Halo hype train.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I didn't mind 4 story-wise. I didn't like its aesthetics or its multiplayer very much. And then Halo 5, I didn't really like anything about it. But if there's one thing we can at least agree on, is it stuck to the normal basis of like every other Halo where you had maps and then cutscenes and stuff. So this one's definitely a very different take on it. It's more open world. Kind of reminds me of it reminds me of Far Cry, or it looks like Far Cry a lot, but for some reason my initial jump to was like Shadow of War. Like they're not close at all because Shadow of War is like third person and more melee. But that's like the last open world game I played, so I kind of ran to that one. But they're definitely vastly different, so I'm not putting my expectations towards that. But I'm excited to see where it goes. I like the idea of the sandbox aspect, where like you can just jump in and kind of run around and do your thing. That's why I always was drawn to Firefight, was for similar reasons. I'd just throw it on like where the rounds were infinite and then just run around the map killing things. So being able to have like this vast map that you could explore with vehicles and every gun in the arsenal, it'll be fun. Even if the story isn't good, I still feel like that aspect is going to be good, especially from the gameplay that we've had through the multiplayer tests.
Yeah, I think Halo's always been like if you go back to Combat Evolved, there was a little bit of exploration there. It's always been very linear, but it kind of had this like awe, like you were able to kind of walk around a little bit, you were kind of able to discover a little bit, and there was just this sense of like this world built around you. And now it looks like we're going to get to explore that even further and in depth and in the way that we choose. um, Now, I would like to say the fortresses, the concept of taking down those barracks that are built up, that seems really fun to me. I've always liked that in Far Cry. Always have.
I I've always liked that too, but I felt it's very repetitive in Far Cry in that regard. Going to a base and destroying it, and for the most part Far Cry's bases are relatively the same for each one, and there's not too many different ways that you can come at attacking a base, I feel.
Yeah, I would enjoy some variation here.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think one thing that Halo does have going for it is its vast known arsenal of enemies, guns, and something Far Cry I feel lacks in that regard is vehicles. We can have something from attacking it with a tank to with the Hydra, I think is what it's called, right? Would be cool to see Falcons, but that's okay. I'm a sucker for my Falcons.
I did think the Wasp looked really cool.
Oh, the Wasps. Yes, that's what it is, not the Hydra.
And I did think it was really funny how the trailer dropped that stuff on us. When the Wasp is dropped in, it's literally dropped in. Like it doesn't. It's not. It's not nice or pleasant by any means. It's just kind of plopped down right in there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A little recklessly. I would say.
He does just kind of plop it down, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I'm curious on how the openness and like the sandbox never-ending fight is gonna work, kind of thing, because it does show like those operation bases that we can take over, and it seems they're replaced with Marines and stuff. So I'm curious, out in the just outside of that, what kind of like never-ending respawn enemies we're getting, if we're gonna have anything on the scale of attacking those bases, or if like that'll be it. I did read that the enemies are gonna be dynamic, like different patrols at night versus day and stuff. I think that'll be really cool to see that. And to continue what you're talking about, the trailer does show that it looks like he finds a tank, so we might be able to also find vehicles out in the open rather than just always having to spawn them in, which would be, I feel, kind of cool and kind of flow too. Like if you're just exploring instead of like always needing to go to one of those to grab a vehicle, you could sometimes just find one and be like, oh, I guess this is what I'm taking now. But I do like how we can just grab a vehicle. That helps with that sandbox aspect of just like we can go grab whatever we want.
Yeah, the grappling hook adds some elements too. I would like to talk about that a second. It's different. I don't know if I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the movement. I don't know if that's their way to fix the movement system. I couldn't really tell if the movement system was still like as fluid and as dynamic as it was in 5. But if it's not, obviously I would think the grappling hook is maybe their way of fixing that and kind of like bringing you back to your roots, but also giving you that fluidity, and which is cool. I mean, and it's an extra tool in the arsenal. I hope it doesn't become like a save all, like oh no, I'm in a shitty situation. Let me just grapple out of here for the 50th time and come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's got to be some there's got to be some of that like Halo 2 legendary all skulls stuff going on. There's got to be that kind of difficulty to it, or it's not Halo, in my opinion.
I'm definitely a fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the armor upgrades too. They kind of showed that off a little bit. That was really interesting to me. Halo's not a game that is known for that kind of element to it,
Oh yeah,
but
we've never had something like that before.
yeah, but there's no reason why we can't, and I think if it's implemented in a good way, then it should definitely be something we should all be excited for. I wonder if it makes it into multiplayer. I doubt it.
I think they are really heavily separating multiplayer and campaign in this entire setup, because like in Far Cry, you do have upgrade stuff like that, mainly like for your weapons. It's starting to feel like it is its own $60 game.
The biggest that was the biggest and still is the biggest concern for me is the fact that obviously we paid $60 for this game. I know you already have through your console, and as have I, but it's still money that we put out there, so only time will tell. But I can't not buy a Halo game because I've purchased every one in my lifetime so far, so
Right.
I can't just not have one. So and that I'm still excited. I am fully on board for the hype train of getting ready for the golden age of Halo. I don't want to think like that, because to me golden age of Halo is back in 2, 3, and like Reach. I mean, I love those games. To me that's golden age of Halo. But if 343 can usher in a better experience, um, by all means, I'm not going to be upset about that.
Right.
I will welcome that with open arms and enjoy it just like everybody else. So there's no reason to live in the past if the future is brighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It also, like, we have to keep in mind this is their 10-year plan for Halo. So they're building it, the multiplayer especially, with that in mind, I feel.
I feel like you're not going to get away without more story content for 10 years because Halo's a story-driven game.
Oh, I highly expect, like, Halo Wars or some other Halo spin-off games to exist. And honestly, given that the games are completely separate, I would not mind at all Halo Infinite campaign DLC.
I just don't. I just don't like broke up campaigns through like paywalls.
I guess here's kind of my example with that, because I do agree. I'd like a complete story all the way through. But like, let's say this Halo doesn't have the flood, and then they have a DLC where on a new map, the a flood outbreak starts because some stupid, either banished or UNSC dude releases them, and so the new side campaign is go stop that, and then we get the flood in a little exploration zone with the flood.
Yeah, potentially. So far, though, Destiny hasn't had a 10-year break, so I don't see them not making another game till 2020 or 2031. I don't see that. There will definitely be another main series Halo game. They might keep the multiplayer, but a lot can change in 10 years. So they might be setting up themselves for that, but they're not going to stick to that, in my opinion, anyways.
I mean, I don't expect another Halo game to potentially not exist. Like, I feel that's very much a possibility. But if they actually do follow the 10-year thing, that's a long time. And if we're honest, like, lore-wise, he's pretty old at this point. How old is he now? Like, is it late 50s or early 60s? I think now.
Saying 48 biologically.
I guess it's not too bad. He can go another 10 years. He'll be 58 if they go by their 10-year plan. But yeah, I don't know. I think the way this game is set up, I think it could really benefit from things like DLC post-launch, especially if they want the multiplayer to be a 10-year thing. Like,
it could, but you got to think. So Combat evolved to Halo 2. That was a 3-year period, 2001 to 2004. Halo 2 to 3, another 3-year period, 2004 to 2007. And then you didn't get ODST until 2 years later, 2009. And then you got Reach the following year in 2010.
right?
Pretty packed during the 2000s. I mean, it was at least every 3 years you got a good game. And then 2 years after Reach, we got 4 in 2012. And then 5 took a little longer. 5 took us another 3-year period into 2015. They really didn't skip much of a beat. And now we have where we've waited now 6 years for this game. So double the time that we've waited for any other Halo game. And it's supposed to be big. It's supposed to be massive.
It's supposed to be the biggest one yet.
Yeah. So we've doubled the waiting time. And I see that as maybe a precedent that stays.
Well, they were developing an engine too within that.
Right, but I'm saying I you're maybe not too far off with the 10-year thing, but they're not.
But they're the ones that say it.
Well, I think that
that's not coming from my mouth.
I think they're talking about.
That's them.
I think they're talking about their multiplayer more than they are their campaign, because you can't just drop a story for 10 years.
Like, their statement was, this game is supposed to have a 10-year lifespan, and then there will be more Halo games within
I think
that
they're mostly
time.
referring to the multiplayer.
I'm not saying like Halo Infinite needs to be the only campaign that we get for that in that 10-year span. It's just if we do get another game, like another Halo Infinite styled campaign, we probably won't have a multiplayer attached to it.
No, I don't.
It's within that 10-year time, but
I see them kind of ignoring, like setting up a good multiplayer that can like stay, like these other services, like Warzone and Fortnite and things. They're all BRs. I get that, but they've kind of stayed and they can stay. And there's no reason why you can't do that, and then you can just focus
Right.
on your game. And there are games that release without multiplayers that still sell 460. I mean, your Far Cry games do it. Just like I'm not gonna compare it to like Skyrim or anything like that because those games are way bigger, and depending on who you are and what you do, you put more time into those anyways. But those games exist, and so to say that we're being scammed for $60 is kind of a ridiculous statement because
No, I don't think we are. I think we are getting something that's worth 60.
no, there's AAA $60 games out there that ship with less content. We'll just have to see.
No, I mean, obviously the worry was there before we got the trailer and stuff and what exactly style of game we're getting. So the concern was always there, but after seeing the trailer, I don't have that concern. Like, I feel like now I'm getting, okay, this is a standalone, like, open world $60 game that we've gotten before from other franchises like Far Cry and Shadow of War, Mordor, whichever one you want to refer to, and other games like that. Yeah, I think we are getting something that's worth it. It's just with all those games, there's always been things like small DLCs and whatnot, and I think Halo Infinite could really benefit from that if it's actually done like in the classic sense. Like obviously, like and I'm just coming from a standpoint of like, if we don't get the Flood in the campaign, I'd want a DLC with the Flood that's fully fleshed out and worth the $20 or whatever.
No, I get that. I'm also interested in kind of how the story got to where it got because they really set up this idea that humanity's on its last leg again, and in my opinion, for them to set up a convincing story like that, Infinity has to be gone because there's nothing more powerful than Infinity in this universe. So
Except the Guardians, but
that's what I'm saying. In my opinion, I think Infinity has to be gone for them to set up the story the way they have. We'll see, but that's my kind of my prediction, kind of my feeling.
it's really strange, and I'm curious how they're gonna go about it because like the OG Cortana is still there. Like she has a mix of her original purple look and her Halo 5 look. Like that's the OG Cortana. Whether it's like a flashback we're seeing or she actually genuinely is still alive, I'm not terribly sure. But
They're definitely picking up on where 5
in
left
that
off.
campaign thing, there
It
is
definitely deals with Cortana.
a downed Guardian in the background. Like you can see the remnants of a dead
I did
Guardian.
see that. That was speculated. Some people that I watched weren't sure if that was or not. They weren't going to confirm nor
But
deny.
I mean, I think it really looks like one. Now, granted, obviously,
Yeah.
one downed Guardian doesn't mean they're all gone, but I think they really are trying to not retcon, but get rid of a lot of what that story had and try to make it like. I think it's going to go something that like Cortana showed up with all of her forces and stuff, and like really just authoritarian control and kind of weakened everyone by not allowing them to have militaries and whatnot. But the Banished were on the Ark, which Cortana never got to the Ark. I don't think she either didn't know its location, or it moved locations. I think there was something in Halo 5 of its location being different after it was mostly destroyed and then rebuilt by the Sentinels or self-rebuilt, whatever. But the Banished weren't really touched. So I'm feeling like when we finally succeeded at allowing the new AI, the weapon, to stop Cortana and shut down all the Guardians, we're like, yeah, we're free. And then the Banished were like, what's up? Before we had the chance to gain our grounds again. And so they just like obliterated us. I'm feeling like that's maybe where they could go with it and why we lost to the Banished so fast.
Yeah, I mean, based on the trailer, I don't know. I feel like they're gonna just pick up where 5 left off. I think Cortana's gonna have a I mean, obviously Cortana plays a major part in this story. She's talked about more than anything else in the trailer. But
it does pick up where like 5 left off, but we are. I
no,
don't
I'm saying
remember how many months.
I don't think they're diverging away from that story. I think they're just.
They're
I mean, it's.
concluding it to start a new one.
I disagree.
They said
I
this
think
is a
it's
spiritual
relevant.
reboot. I mean, like it is.
I think it's
still
relevant. I think it's
existing,
relevant, but
and it's going to
I
be
think
something we follow. But is what I'm trying to say is like, I think the ideas of the Guardians and Cortana being the main thing we go after is not going to be the case anymore.
Sure. I mean, they talked about her more than anything else in that trailer, so that's what I'm leaning towards.
Well, yeah, but I'm feeling
but
that's because we have a new Cortana, and I think the new Cortana we have, which is
well, her sole purpose is to take down the old Cortana.
Yeah,
so
and I feel like we're
there.
gonna have some interesting stuff of her with the old Cortana, because we do have in the very first, is it the first trailer, where she's like talking about how like this is me, but it isn't me, and I can't tell.
She
which
also
Cortana.
seems extremely She also seems extremely naive. Like,
well, she's
like she doesn't understand any. No, I get that, but it's really interesting. Like she doesn't understand like anything.
Because I feel like her sole purpose was to destroy Cortana. Like, I don't think Halsey created her with anything else in mind, but she somehow didn't self-destruct, and she's like, I was supposed to be out of commission after that, but here I am.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They don't know where Cortana went, which I don't think she's gone. I don't think Cortana's actually going to be.
It's just really interesting to me how naive she is. Like, I wonder if that's going to be important or not.
But I feel like she's going to have some revolutionary conversations or interactions with the regular Cortana.
and maybe that's like comedic relief is why, because maybe like a lot of Chief's nuances that we're all used to, like she'll basically make us think about them again, like, oh yeah, you know, he does do that, or like he does say that, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it's comedic relief, I'm not sure. But I do believe a large part of me believes that Infinity's gone. I don't know how it would have played out, but a large part of me believes Infinity's gone.
Ouch.
Otherwise, building this idea that humanity's on its last leg is kind of far-fetched because Infinity's way too powerful.
I mean, if Infinity itself was the only ship that's in commission, that's still pretty underpowerful. But I do agree, the Infinity would have to be almost gone for that to be the case. Like, that would have to be the crippling point, I feel. Like, the Infinity being destroyed is our, like, breaking point.
I don't like making game predictions, but you heard it here, that's my prediction. So.
I do want to go further into on that side of, like, other things outside of Chief and Cortana showing up, because obviously it's a huge focus on Chief, Cortana, and we have the pilot, but, like, what about other characters?
Is the pilot the new Forerunner character?
No.
Oh no, you're talking about. Oh, okay.
That's the Harbinger. I'm talking about, like,
you're talking about the Pelican pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget his name.
He seems to be like kind of a side helpful character that we get.
He's the one that drops us the Wasp. So
yeah.
It seems like
that's why I included him. It seems like
instead of Foehammer, you're getting him. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of my connection there too, is Foehammer with him. But I'm curious about like how this is gonna work when it comes to other characters. Like, are we gonna see or know what happened to our original characters? Because I know, like, we still have characters like Palmer and Lasky, and
it looks like you're saving. It looks like you spend a lot of time like saving Marines and stuff from like encampments. So I don't know. Maybe all those guys just got wiped out too. Who knows? But like to Fire Team Osiris and like.
I know Osiris is split up. So here's where like my biggest complaint with things comes in is they do a lot of changing within the books. We've got 3 books. Bad Blood, is it Bad Blood?
You gotta ignore the books though.
No, that's the thing. You can't.
You have to.
They change a lot when it comes to the world of Halo at its current state before Halo Infinite. Bad Blood shows the entire interaction when Chief gets back to at the end of Halo 5 when he meets up with the Arbiter. It shows those two talking, and like it's actually a really nice part in the book that was like, why wasn't this shown on the game? But like they have a nice talk with each other, and it's from Buck's point of view, and he states like they stayed up all night chatting and just reminiscing and talking and stuff, and then they have a nice goodbye to each other, and then the humans leave to, like all of Osiris and Red Team and stuff, leave to go to the Infinite. So we know that like the Arbiter stays behind on his planet at that point in time, and that's the last we see of him. And then Bucky leaves to go reform his original ODST squad that we see in ODST, minus the rookie, because spoiler alert, he's dead. And Osiris split up. I don't know. I haven't read the Osiris book, and I haven't finished the most recent where Chief and his team returned to Reach. But I know Fireteam Osiris splits up the rest of the way, and I'm unsure of where they all go. And I know that Chief and his team return to Reach to gather the required material for Halsey to make the weapon. Now, I don't know what happens to the team in the book. I don't know if any of them die or what they do after, but obviously they're not in Halo currently. But the concept art for the front cover does show all 4 of them in their new Spartan Gen armor. Like they all have the new armor looks, so that they did at least render or have someone draw an art. So I'm fine with those characters not being forefronts anymore. I loved the aspect in Halo 5 where you're with your fire team again. Not necessarily to the point where like they were with you every single step of the way, but just like, I don't know, it'd be nice if we had a mission where we met up with them or something, or just got an update of like where they are, because they did introduce them to the Halo community. For if you weren't a book reader, that'd be the first time you heard about his team. So it's like, for those viewers and for hardcore Halo fans, I feel it would be nice to know what happened to our characters that have at the current moment been left alive from the previous game, even if it's a line in passing saying they're dead.
Right.
Because they are kind of important characters. And I see a lot of people everywhere saying they hope that the Arbiter shows up in Halo Infinite. I think that'd be great, but that also kind of throws in another thing of like I don't know how that would happen. It's hard to like say how stuff like that would happen. I don't know how it'd work, because with the open sandbox aspect, they're easily able to get away with it by saying like Chief is alone, so everywhere he goes there's enemies. He takes the base, he rescues the Spartans that go to the base and stuff. So maybe at a base you'd have the Arbiter sitting there, but that wouldn't make sense, I don't think. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'd love to see the Arbiter, but I wouldn't like necessarily hate not seeing him, I guess. But I would love to see, like, I feel like that's where like a DLC thing could come in handy, so they don't break the integrity of the original game by just throwing nostalgia at us by having Arbiter show up, by having the Flood show up. Like, that's all great stuff, but story-wise, like, the Flood story was concluded. Like, we ended that like twice. We did it in C and we did it again in 3. And we did it again in Halo Wars 2 as the DLC. Like, we've done that story multiple times. So I feel putting it in the main campaign is just doing it again for nostalgia reason. I feel like a DLC that has them show up. Something that's like, you want this? It's here. But like, it's not required to get the story kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where he goes off to the side to another place and destroys a flood outbreak. And then same for like his fire team, like a DLC. We're like, you know what? This DLC, your fire team's with you. If you don't like that idea, you don't need, like, it doesn't break the integrity of the original story of Chief stranded on Halo trying to figure out stuff with Cortana. Like, I feel like that's where DLC could come in really good handy.
Yeah.
Or maybe even just side stories in general. I mean, Skyrim's got like the Brotherhood side quest line, the Thieves Guild. Like, that's not an integral part of the... I mean, I don't even think the main story in Skyrim is necessarily the biggest part either. Like, it's a very open game and a hard comparison, but it gets the point across, I feel.
Right.
Do you think we're gonna have like authentic full cutscenes and stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I was reading some stuff on that too. I think people are thinking that it's gonna be kind of seamless too. Like you'll go from you'll get up into like I believe there's like a cutscene or something where you see like you're getting up in a pelican or something, and like it goes straight from like first to you climbing up in there right into the cutscene. So it's like straight seamless, like not, it doesn't just like cut to black and then you see the third person view of the cutscene. It's like seamless, like straight one from another.
Right.
And I'm down for that.
I think that's great. I like that too for the most part, but I will miss like the classic like pushing the limits on it looking like a movie, an animated movie scene. Like Halo 2 Anniversary pushed that to the point where it's just like that's what I'd love to see more of that. Those cutscenes are absolutely fantastic. And obviously they look better than the game because they're more rendered and it doesn't have to render 3D. It's just a movie, a 2D thing.
Yeah.
But it'd be fun to see stuff like that. Yeah. The Harbinger's kind of weird. That feels very Halo 5-ish, but I guess we'll see. And then I'm concerned, like, Halo's always had very diverse landscapes. It looks like we're going to have multiple different areas we can go to explore. And I'm really hoping that they make them diverse and, like, we have something like a snow location like how we did in Halo CE a lot, or the swamp stuff we saw in Halo CE. Like, it was very diverse. In the library, like, it was very diverse maps. And I'm hoping that diversity with each zone we can explore stays the same, and it's not just a redone version of, like, the first zone, you know?
Well, and this might just be my ignorance, but I don't even really know the full purpose of Zeta Halo, but I don't read the books like you do. So if it's anything that's talked about in the books, then I'm in the dark, because I just know Zeta Halo exists. I don't know its purpose. I don't know. The original rings were used to extinguish life.
Whew. Zeta Halo's history is insanely long, and I don't even know it all. I know that, like, at some point, humans were held there when we were in our primitive state for testing. Minikin Bias, I think that's the AI, was there. The original, I don't think it was a grave mine, but it was like a flood infection thing. Like, the original place the flood came from, or something, they imprisoned there, which is why people are excited about the flood idea, because, like, literally the creature that started the flood, or evolved into the flood, or whatever he did, is, like, last known to be on Zeta. but he obviously probably died when the rings were activated. But he convinced Mendicant Bias to betray and help him, and so the Forerunners created a alternate version of Mendicant Bias to fight back. And it's kind of like paralleling Cortana and the weapon, like heavily paralleling those two. Like literally the direction of those two is the same thing as the original AIs from the Forerunners.
Yeah.
So to be on Zeta Halo, it's got a lot of significance like that, but I'm not terribly sure what the implications into Infinite are going to be.
I was just curious because I had not really heard it mentioned much before, so
yeah.
Not that I've paid attention to anyhow, so.
Yeah, I am very excited for it. I want the diverse maps, honestly. That's probably my biggest thing I'm hoping for.
Do we know if we've got co-op campaign?
Not at launch.
Not at launch. Okay.
No co-op campaign or Forge at launch. That will be they said that'll be like their next thing they release after the game is released.
I think I can live without the Forge because that's a whole nother element. Co-op campaign should have been dropped day one. It's just my opinion. I don't need to be eaten alive for it, but I've always loved. That's always been my favorite part of Halo is co-op campaign. So that's like a standard feature.
I've always played through.
I think 343 should be lit up about that a little bit, but we'll see how they implement it later and how long it takes them, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I always played through with my brother, and we're not going to be able to this time.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing. They delayed the game already once, and it's been in years of development. I feel like something like that. And I can kind of understand their limits, because even Far Cry still has its limits. You can't go that far away from your partner when you're exploring. It literally pulls him with you. So I understand that. But also, we're at like next gen here, and their maps are most definitely smaller because they're split up into sections, which again makes me want snow and other alien-like environments. Like I really am gonna be so disappointed if we don't get alternate biomes like that. Like, you can't say you're taking from Halo CE and then only take from the one map. Like, they had so many diverse environments, but so I feel like there's a way that they're trying to get it so in that one zone, you two can explore where you want to go. So I get it, but also still should be there.
All right, well,
I think that's about it.
I think that's all we got for you guys tonight. Check out our other stuff on YouTube. We'll have our new Minecraft Let's Play going up. We'll get some other streams going up. Mortal Wolves, check us out. Thanks for listening. Bye.
See ya.